no surprise here. The Bills have a new offensive coordinator, and I'm using air quotations here because we all suspected that it was going to be Ken Dorsey, and it turns out it was. So that's great. Bobby Johnson left. We got a new offensive line coach, and Joe Brady. Shea Tierney left, and we also brought in Joe Brady as the new quarterbacks coach. So a lot to unpack there, but Justin, did I miss anything?
I don't think you missed anything. Circle back, you said Joe Brady twice there. The new offensive line coach replacing OG Bobby Johnson is Phil Rauscher.
Yeah. Sorry for double down on my mistakes. So to summarize, those who left: Brian Dable, Shea Tierney, Bobby Johnson. That's who's left. Coming in is Phil Rauscher, Joe Brady, and I guess who got retained is Ken Dorsey, promoted. Sound right?
Sounds right to me.
Okay, well let's go from old to new stuff, and after that we'll jump into our 13 reasons why to be 13 reasons to be excited for the Bills' upcoming season. So, Ken Dorsey, I use in air quotations here because as Bills fans, we kind of had this feeling like maybe he's going to go to the Giants. I read some reports online that, hiring Brian Dable was a package deal that Ken Dorsey was supposed to come with him. Now, we ultimately know that this didn't happen, and I'm pretty excited about that because of the following reasons. Continuity is stabilized at One Bills Drive. You're not bringing in someone who's not with the times with the Bills. You got someone who's been well juiced up by Josh Allen himself, so that's another thing. And in another way, you kind of saw this coming because last year he got promoted to passing game coordinator, so it seemed like he had the most, straightforward track to becoming the offensive line coach. The only obstacle here was allegedly other teams were interested in Ken Dorsey and outside of the Giants, so I guess my biggest fear was, are other teams going to pay Ken Dorsey significantly more money than we are? Is that going to be enough to retain him, the continuity aspect? And it turns out that so far, I don't know what he got paid, but so far it looks like that continuity aspect and working with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and the rest of the gang seems more appealing than jumping to the Giants with Daniel Jones and company.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of reasons I'm excited for this, and really only one hesitation that I have, and that would be that he hasn't been a play caller at this level, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll kind of touch on that as we get into some of the other moves we've had. But as you mentioned, it was reported there's up to 11 offers out there for Ken Dorsey, and compensation aside, he decides to stay when there's other options out there. And one of the things that I really like about this is, as we see, this Brian Flores story come out saying, it was a bad work environment and Dable was thinking about leaving anyways. And then it's kind of immediately followed up with, well, Dorsey wants to stay. He had options to go elsewhere.
Right.
And probably pretty similar money, if not the same, that was being offered. So, in kind of the same news cycle as, well, maybe the Bills have a bad work environment, a guy with tons of options decides to stay. So I really liked hearing that. I also think, the continuity piece is important. The fact that he was kind of endorsed by some of the players, already has eyeballs on them, knows what they do well, knows what they like to run, but also the little bit of change that will come with it. Whereas it's not going to be the exact same scheme that Dable was running, but he has been working with Dayball. So a lot of the pieces, day one of training camp, they're not installing a new playbook for a new coordinator that they've never met. They kind of already have the base work to work with, and then whatever he can add and subtract away. I think just kind of a fresh look at it, and a little bit of a different take on how to coordinate could be a really good thing for Josh in the offense.
Yeah, and I agree completely. I think a breath of fresh air. Again, it's not entirely fresh, right? Because we retained Ken Dorsey and really promoted him, but there's a lot to be excited about because change is coming, but we're probably going to see a lot of carryover from the previous plays into this playbook. So another angle, really, while keeping the same stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. New development of plays. So why not? Why can't this offense be better under Ken Dorsey? And I'm finding hard reasons to come up with it. Honestly, it should. Not trying to pump them up too much, but I can see every reason why this Bills offense could be just as good, if not better. And I'm always a half glass kind of full kind of person, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but who knows? And you mentioned the lawsuit, so I'll kind of put I didn't really want to talk about that too much, but here we are. I kind of find it hard to believe that after how long was Dable here? Like 3-4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, he goes. This is brought up like, oh, he hated his time in Buffalo. It's just like, okay, if he really hated his time in Buffalo, he could have left any of those years. And then, but again, maybe I don't have the facts right. I'm just kind of working with what I have in front of me. And also, there are plenty of people that I work with that I don't like, but I'm able to work with them. And I think that's the important thing, right? You're not going to like everyone. And this is just, you can apply this to every workplace. There are probably multiple people you don't like to work with or you don't like as people, but yet you find a way to work with them in order to achieve your goal, which happens all around America. And, not even America, just like the world in general. So I'm not going to put too much stock into the fact that Brian Dable really hated his time here because, he had a lot of success, and team success is pretty fulfilling, for me at least. So let's move on to the second hiring. So Joe Brady, this really amped up guy coming out of LSU, gets his chance at Carolina to be their offensive coordinator. Things don't really work out after 2 years, not even a year and a half really. Gets the boot. He's on the street, and then he kind of takes a position down because I know he was getting head coaching interviews and offensive coordinator interviews, but he said, no, I want to come back and work as a quarterback's coach with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, which in my head, like, how can you not be excited about this? This is a guy with a lot of upside who people have sought out for higher positions, who looks, right now his NFL career start didn't look too hot, but it's there. Can the Bills really help develop him in the quarterback's room and get his career back on track? So I'm pretty excited about that. What are your thoughts, Justin?
So for me, this is probably the hire I'm most excited about. And I kind of, I kind of touched on it with Ken Dorsey, and the only question I really have is kind of the play calling and the game planning install for the week. And I was kind of concerned of, if we just kind of promoted everybody in the organization up a step, that there wouldn't really be that guy to bounce ideas off of. And seeing Joe Brady come in, and having that offensive coordinator experience, calling the plays and whatnot, to me it's kind of like, position aside, kind of like when you have a younger quarterback and you bring in a veteran backup, Ryan Fitzpatrick, pick a McCown, and it's just kind of that voice in the room that's seen some of the things that you haven't seen yet and can kind of help you and bounce ideas off of you. So I'm very excited for Joe Brady, and I think there's a lot of other things to like too. You know, he was a William and Mary alum like McDermott.
I did not know that.
He did his master's work at Penn State, which checks a box for the Pagulas. So he was kind of. I kind of figured the offensive coordinator was going to be Dorsey's job to either take or leave on the table. But Joe Brady's somebody that I had in mind. Obviously, there's the Carolina connection as well. You know how we like to trade players back and forth and whatnot. So he was somebody that I had in mind for an OC position. So getting him in the building to take a step lower position and kind of be that soundboard for Ken Dorsey, I think that could be quite the marriage.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned the Carolina connection and the pipeline that clearly exists between Buffalo and Carolina. Is before I even looked, I forgot who posted it, but, you know, so basically the standard breaking news post that you see on social media, Bills hire so-and-so. I didn't even look at the face or the name. I just saw Carolina's jacket on it, and I was like, of course. You know, not like that's a bad thing. But I just, it's just kind of funny to me and at this point. But no, you're right. I think Joe Brady is more than adequate. And like I said, this is a high upside kind of hire. Kind of like what the Bills did in, you know, when they draft people. They pick a lot of people with high upside, with their talents not to be reached yet. For me, this hire is almost in the same category, if not the same category. So I'm pretty excited about it. And then the last news piece that we got to talk about is the offensive line coach. Bobby Johnson left, and it's reported that the Bills did not try to give him another contract, or maybe Bobby Johnson wanted to leave. Regardless, he leaves, goes to the Giants. So he's got to deal with that train wreck. Now we have Phil Rosher coming over from, reportedly, Phil Rosher coming from the Minnesota Vikings. Which, I'm going to say this first. I don't know a lick about this guy. I'm not going to sit here and try to like tell you everything about this dude because I don't. That's just, you know, that's just who I am. What I will say from my, you know, small research is that the players talk really well of him. You know, and I looked up ESPN's 2021, where is it? 2021 run blocking, pass blocking stats, and the Vikings for team pass block win rate was at 25th at 54%. Run block win rate 13th at 71%. So that shouldn't surprise you. They got Dalvin Cook over there, and they run the ball really well. The Bills know how to, you know, run block effectively. In fact, in this same article, they were 8th in pass blocking, right? But in run blocking, the Bills were 23rd. So hopefully bringing in Phil Rosher will teach this offensive line how to run block better, while, you know, obviously maintaining their ability to pass block. And players were raving about Phil Rosher. And what I really am excited about is the fact that this guy, again, like Joe Brady, has a lot of upside. The Bills are taking a chance with someone who's got a high ceiling. That's awesome. Like, I saw some of the reports of other offensive line coaches. There was some guy from the Jaguars, and I was like, oh, that does not sound like someone who I want personally. And I'm trying to think of who else. Yeah, and then, yeah, it just looked like it was that guy at the moment. I can't find anything else. But still, I would have not liked I much prefer Phil Rosher over Ryan Wendell of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I don't know how you feel about this. If you're having parallel feelings with the Joe Brady hiring and the Phil Rosher one like I am, but Justin, why don't you tell me how you feel?
So this one I'm a little bit back and forth about, and something you touched on that I was going to bring up is kind of that betting on traits and going after like this new look. And it's another young guy that they're bringing in. He's only 36 years old. Spent the last 2 years with the Vikings, and you bring up the stats with the pass and run blocking win rates. Kind of the exact opposite of what the Bills are right now. So maybe, with what our line already does well, what they need to work on, maybe we meet somewhere in the middle with both. But this is an area for me where it's kind of like, well, what offensive line is he getting to work with? Because kind of like the first 6 games, first half of the year, that offensive line was a train wreck. And we see some pieces move around. Ryan Bates kind of solidifies a spot at guard. Spencer Brown comes in. Darrell Williams moves. So, beginning of the season, we think we have this starting 5 in mind. And by the end of the year, there's only, Mitch Morrison, Deion Dawkins in their original position. For me, this one will be interesting to see, through free agency, through the draft, what kind of pieces we add in to help. And, was Ryan Bates kind of this flash in the pan, or, is he really legit? And the Bills kind of knew what they had in him, but his positional versatility as a backup was too valuable. So